Happy 2021. Welcome back to Thriving in Abundance. Talk igama lami Zodwa Msimang KaNsibande, and of course, that lady with a beautiful voice, absolutely gorgeous voice, Oli Wakamwango. I love her latest offering, and of course, it shall never lose its power. It's one of my favorite songs since my days in the youth. Back then, we were saying, "Shall never lose its power. Yeah. Shall never lose its power. Shall never lose." That's the story for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us live on Facebook, welcome to Thriving in Abundance Talk Show. Today, I have the pleasure of hosting the cooking doctor, the cycling doctor. But what other people do not know is that she is also the singing doctor. Let me take this opportunity ke ngikwamukele dokotela namhlanje ntambama ku Thriving in Abundance Talk.
Thank you very much, Sis Zodwa. Hello to everybody on Nazi this afternoon. And I hope we'll have a lovely conversation.
Absolutely, and you're looking gorgeous. I was saying to her, "Ngatu Vogue magazine." Those who know her, they will know. Let me just briefly introduce you properly to our viewers this afternoon. Dr. Nokukhanya Msomi is a clinical virologist by training. She is the head of department at the UKZN discipline of virology in the School of Laboratory Medicine and Medical Sciences. She is also the leading pathologist at the National Health Laboratory Services, that is NHLS, which renders a viral diagnostic service to the public health sector in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Mangiziluma ulimu niyo understander. Khanyi, of course, is based at Inkosi Albert Luthuli Hospital. And of course, as I was saying, she's an all-rounder. She finds joy in most things. Okay, it says here from Ukdlala Ingqathu. I'm at 2000, you will be lost. To riding bikes, an eternal optimist and lifelong learner. That's very important and critical. A mother, wife, daughter, sister, and friend to many. Ngiyayifaka nami lapho kuyi-friendship bakwethu. Dr. Khanyi, yini i-virologist?
Okay. I-virologist, udokotela.
Yes.
Kungenzeka kabili. Kunama virologists who are medical scientists. Kunama virologists who are pathologists. La pathologists, they first become udokotela, a normal general practitioner. Yes. And then they specialize in pathology. Pathology has many disciplines. One of them is viral pathology as a discipline. Okay. We match the clinical side of you and the pathology side of you, and we clinical virologist. We move seamlessly from the bedside to a benji in the last corner with our patients who usually come in bottles. And then the other type of virologist is a medical scientist virologist. These are our colleagues who are mostly focused on the lab side of things.
Yes.
And they train through the BSc stream. So then the BSc and the masters, best and the PhD, they might say by a virologist.
Okay, all right, that helps. But I do know that you were a doctor, a medical doctor at some point, and then what attracted you to Lomkaka? Sometimes or at least a lot of times when people specialize, they specialize in the other disciplines. And what attracted you to this particular discipline?
It was a long, tortuous route, but it started as a family practitioner. I worked in a practice. I always said I inherited a practice that had a strong client base where we were treating HIV before HIV medicine was readily available. During that time, there was a lot of death, and we all felt defeated. I felt there must be something else. There must be another way of approaching this. This can't be killing us. And then I decided maybe I should start the route of ukufunda about drugs. I specialized in something called pharmacology. To try and see can we approach this pharmaceutically in a way of improving myself. And then I decided maybe if I can go behind the scenes and go the lab route, try and specialize in that and see if that can bring me closer to what I want to achieve in my career, which is, like I said, a lifelong learner. For me, it involves always looking for answers. And as a researcher, I find this suits me perfectly.
I remember when this whole thing started, when we went to lockdown level 5, and I sent you a message and it's like, hey, Dot, you're going to have to assist us. Like, please, you're going to have to try and do something so that, you can share your knowledge, because obviously, I had an understanding of your knowledge base. Now, coming back to where we are now, we are here and we've got this COVID-19 pandemic that is, perhaps people are in fact dying, and omunye ke mhlambe uzobuza ukuthi konje yona i-vaccine, what is a vaccine?
Umgomo.
So njalo omunye mangithi sixoxa wathene lalelani mina ngiyogoma. You can say whatever you like. Mina ukugoma khona ila ngiyakhona.
Maybe if we go deeper, what is a vaccine? What is umgomo? Umgomo is usually we take what is supposed to cause illness. So illness of an infectious nature, infectious diseases, is caused by pathogens, different types of germs. Others are viruses, bacteria, parasites, all sorts. So we take that which is supposed to cause disease and we try to make it not disease causing. It can either be, we call it inactivation, or in layman's term, it's called a killed vaccine. Or sometimes it can be broken apart into little pieces that can be introduced and not cause disease into a human body. And when this happens, this somehow makes the body respond by producing antibodies as if it's seeing a real infection. And this then creates a protective immunity. And that's the whole rationale or goal behind vaccination using a vaccine.
Oh, okay. So what we are hearing right now, and I think that's what's causing a lot of maybe people not to be settled in their minds as to which direction they should be going where this is concerned, is the fact that it takes a while to develop a vaccine. So, and a lot of, we're just like reading what we're reading, mainly in the social media space. And the question is, but it's only been like only a few months. How come there's already a vaccine available for COVID-19?
There is a multitude of reasons. But the biggest one being, for any drug to come to the market, a chemist or a vaccine in this case, it's very expensive. Funding is an issue.
Yes.
Obviously, when this pandemic, we haven't had a pandemic of this magnitude for a very long time. It hit the whole world hard. It did not discriminate between rich or poor. It needed a different way of thinking in response to it. So with that, it was an emergency and it required an emergency response.
Yeah.
And with that came a lot of willingness, because usually, I'm sure we've seen when infectious diseases occur in low-income countries, there's not always that financial willingness.
There's no agency.
This was different because it affected everybody. And because of that, the money was available. And what also made it easy is that also in research and in science, there is always a reluctance to share information, because unlike kweminye imikhakha where you uvelela ngokwakha imali, in science uvelela ngama-research findings akho. So people don't share information kwa science. That's how we get our brownie points. For lack of a better word.
I'm with you.
So what was different here is there was this unprecedented sharing of scientific knowledge. The virus was discovered in December, January. The first scientists obviously were the Chinese scientists, because that's where it started.
Yes.
They shared the sequence within weeks of sequencing done. And once that sequence or the blueprint of the virus, the genetic blueprint was known, it made it easy to build on that knowledge. Another thing is, before SARS-CoV-2, which is causing COVID, there was SARS coronavirus. There was MERS coronavirus. So there have been coronaviruses since time immemorial.
Yes.
But these two big ones I'm mentioning because they also caused epidemics, although not so much pandemics, but they caused epidemics.
Yeah.
And there was an effort, although it was mostly regional effort, to try and find vaccines against these. So there was existing knowledge that people were building on. And there were candidate vaccines that were being targeted to this one. So once the sequence of this new one came, it was easy to tweak and build on existing knowledge. Also, the technology was on the side of the general population. Previously, a vaccine, you'd have to grow the virus in a lab, grow it in chicken eggs, grow it in cells, things that took time. Cells die, chickens die, eggs die. But we now have genetic engineering or molecular biology. All those advances in science make it easy to clone something without having to go the long route of culturing, which usually takes time. So that is why it looks like it was unusually fast. It was unusually fast, actually. The money to make it happen fast was readily available, but the science was already existing. It's not new science.
Okay, all right, okay. That's actually very interesting, because I'm thinking, oh, this doesn't sound complicated. So why is there...
Not at all.
Why kunama issues amaningi kangaka out there? Okay, but again, I mean, I'm hoping that people will be asking us questions, because we are live on Facebook. You know, now we are at a point whereby other countries are testing. Yes.
Testing and giving the vaccine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, yes, testing and giving. And we've been reading that in some it's working well, but some other countries, it doesn't seem to be working well. And other people have taken it and their system is rejecting, you know. What would cause that? Or is that even factual?
It is true. But there's a lot of exaggeration.
Exaggeration.
Yeah, there is a lot of exaggeration. Any drug or any vaccine, before it gets given to a human being, goes through a lot of stages to ensure safety and to ensure efficacy.
Yes.
Even if something works well in the lab, if it's killing those mice, and if it's killing non-human primates in the lab, it's not going to be given. So it will never pass the mark of safety.
Yeah.
So the safety aspect is tested rigorously, and in this case, from reading all the evidence that is available to us,
Yes.
there is no evidence that the safety issues should really be a concern. That's number one. The other issue is that also once it gets to the human stage of testing, so if it passes the preclinical stages,
yes,
once you human stages, there are different stages. There's phase 1, there's phase 2, there's phase 3, and so forth. In the first 2 phases, the focus is purely on safety, because you'd have established that it works in the preclinical stages. The focus is on safety and adjusting the doses. And once it passes those, it has to pass those 2 marks, the safety and efficacy marks. Once it passes those, then it gets tested on a wider audience now, a population group. So it will be a mix, old, young, people with different conditions, people with different genetic makeup, so that we don't say it works in these people, it doesn't work in those people. For all the vaccines, the corona currently that have received registration for emergency use, I think we currently have 4 or 5. None of them have been tested on less than 30,000 people per vaccine. The likelihood that if there was going to be overt complications or overt adverse effect in those numbers, evident, at least in the short term. I will not say we know what the long-term side effects are. We do not know. The condition has not been around long enough, and we just don't have that type of information as yet, and it will be built on. But considering what the risk of not giving it now would mean while we're testing for long-term side effects after 10 years or 15 years, there may not be any of us left to find that out.
You're saying there are 4 different types that are being tested and given currently?
No, those that are being tested in total, I think they're exceeding 70, all at different phases. Okay. Those that have received approval, ZO4. There is the 2, as Dumile, the RNA ones, which I think are the ones as concern abantu kakhulu, the Pfizer one and the Moderna one.
Yeah.
And there's also the other 2, the one from the University of Oxford with a company called AstraZeneca. That has also been registered in the UK and other countries.
Yes.
And then there's the one from Russia called Sputnik 5. And that has also received approval in Russia, and it's currently being tested at a wider scale in other countries as well. I'm not sure if other countries have registered it yet.
Okay, you mentioned that the one, is it RNA, where which, it seems like people have got concerns around that. What are people concerned about?
I think because the stories that we've seen the concerns are anything that works, that looks like DNA or RNA, there is a fear that it will interfere with our own DNA or with our own RNAs. It's also a relatively new technology. Excuse me. And the newness of it all makes people
worried,
jittery. We humans, so it makes people jittery. I would think that is the reason. There have been questions asked about, okay, so if somebody injects me with a foreign RNA or foreign DNA, will it not come and change my coding, my own DNA or RNA? Maybe without really going into the deep science of how it works, I would just explain that our bodies work by, we all have DNA, And DNA is sort of a blueprint that tells the body, you go make hair, you go make eyes, you go make this, you go make proteins. Everything is coded in our DNA. Viruses on their own are not able to produce their own RNA or not produce their own DNA. They rely on the human cell to produce its own DNA for a virus to replicate. Yeah, they are parasites. Yeah, they're the essential parasite. So this vaccine works by mimicking how a virus works. So a virus would instruct the body to produce a protein that makes up new viruses or virions.
Yeah.
So what scientists have done is they have taken that piece of the viral gene that would form the outer part of the coronavirus that the body normally sees and produces antibodies against, which make us immune. They've taken that piece and they've given that instruction to the body. Remember, it's an instruction that doesn't cause infection because it's not a full genome of the virus. They've given that little piece of instruction to say, please produce these proteins. But obviously they are man-made proteins, so they are not infectious. And once that is done, the body in its natural state, in God's infinite wisdom, has a built-in mechanism of degrading RNAs every day. Our own RNAs get degraded. So these RNAs, once also they deliver the message or the code or the blueprint to the cell to produce this particular protein, which looks like a viral protein, but is not a viral protein, and they degrade it. And once the immune system sees that, it thinks we under invasion and it produces antibodies and we become immune. So that the next time you meet the real protein from a real virus, it's neutralized before it causes disease. I hope I've simplified it.
I hear you. But let me go to our Facebook page and just check if our viewers are hearing you and if they've got any questions. Lunga Lapa is saying how true about the trickiness of knowledge sharing in science. And okay. Unothando lapha uthi ke ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi idalwa yini ukuthi ibe na such depth of knowledge and testimonies from doctors about the effectiveness of the drug ivermectin, or whatever it's called, that has been around in 1975, but for some reason it has not been legalized almost 12 months into the crisis, especially when there's so many success stories from so many countries. Yeah.
Medicine is a science.
Yeah.
And science follows rules, unfortunately, because if we were not to follow rules, the consequences would be dire.
Yeah.
And those rules mean, and they are all there just to protect people.
Yeah.
I am very aware of controversy. Utando. About ivermectin.
Yeah.
The same controversy towards corona about hydroxychloroquine and a few other agents, because many scientists are trying different things and with good reason. But you cannot give a drug a particular registration, so a particular use registration, if it wasn't tested for that use.
Yeah.
Ivermectin has been tested specifically for parasitic infections. And the dosages that are currently allowed for use in animals, where it's registered, have not necessarily been tested specifically for the purpose of treating corona.
Yeah.
So we do not know unless the evidence is convincing, and nobody will kill evidence. I do not agree with Thando Maeti. The evidence is being ignored. In fact, there have been calls from many registration authorities, the FDA and SAPRA in our country, which bring us the data, bring us the scientific evidence, and let it go through the normal review process. And if evidence is there to support, it will be registered. Everything right now is registered under emergency use. So the scrutiny is not very high currently. So it must make people be aware of if something is not being readily registered right now, when everything is being registered under emergency use, it means, Gambela, that evidence is not convincing. And that's all I can say, that unless there is really evidence that that is convincing, unfortunately, because 10 years down the line, the same people who are saying, give us ivermectin, if something goes wrong, will be the same people who will be litigating.
Yes.
And the first rule of medicine is first do no harm. And if you do not know if something is going to cause harm, I don't think with a clean conscience you can administer it.
Yeah. All right. There's a question here. Well, I think you've touched on that with the vaccine and the DNA. So it would not necessarily alter your DNA.
No, it's not able to integrate into your own DNA. It's not able to change anything about your DNA. It's actually an RNA, so it can't go backwards to become DNA. It's already ready to be decoded. So no, it can't.
Okay, all right. Are there people that should not take the vaccine, maybe because of the makeup of their system?
Yes. Currently, from what I know, the vaccine has not every vaccine has been tested in all age groups.
Okay.
So the first two RNA vaccines, I think, were not tested in children under 16.
All right.
I think because the level of caution when you're testing anything on a child is very high. And there was no registration authority that was ready to really give that. That's just my thinking. But so there is currently no knowledge on how well it works on kids. So not necessarily saying it shouldn't be taken by kids. We're just saying there isn't enough evidence from the current studies on kids. Secondly, because these are the currently registered vaccines are not live vaccines. So they are not living pathogens. Normally, if it's a live vaccine that is able to reproduce, you do not give it to people with an with an immunocompromised system, or you don't give it to pregnant people.
Okay.
So in this case, that is not the issue, because it's not necessarily the type of vaccine. Where a caution is being given is in people who typically get severe allergic reactions. So the type of person who gets what we call anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis is a very severe form of allergic reaction where your throat closes up and you can't breathe.
Okay.
Asikhulumi ngeresh njengathi simumuntu. Yeah, no, asikhulumi ngeresh. Sikhuluma nge-severe anaphylaxis. There has been a cautionary guidance at those people must, as soon as they are tested, because anaphylaxis occurs very soon after a drug is administered, they must be monitored for at least half an hour to an hour to see if their body reacts.
Okay.
That's the only caution I have seen. Because it's registered for use in the elderly. In fact, the elderly will be among the first few who will get it. In other countries, they've already started giving it to people who are living in old age homes.
Okay.
So it is considered safe.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Any side effects that have been reported so far on the different ones that are being administered?
A lot of them are reporting, in fact, 2 of them are reporting local reactions,
Okay.
like isihlungu or urticaria, or around, and pain, obviously,
Yes.
around the site of injection. Also, in the first 24 hours, because the body is seeing something foreign, and when a body sees something foreign, it responds by throwing all its soldiers, for lack of a better word. And that may make you sick. That is what causes a fever. That is what causes ukubagruki. I mean, we know ingane, we usually say, hey, ubeyogoma today, and that's why ingane khala ebusuku mayiphuma ukuyogoma, because there is that discomfort on the day of immunization that is because of the body's own response to whatever, something foreign that it's seeing. So that is what has been reported. But it's transient. And remember, this is also only happening in less than 1% of people. So not everybody who ogomayo uzoshisa or uzoba these transient side effects and kulumangazo. The majority that have been studied are not getting them, but about 1% of patients have reported.
Okay, I've been reading that there are actually some other healthcare professionals, people that should have information like you, but still who are saying they're not comfortable with taking the vaccine. So, like, how does that work? Because they are knowledgeable.
Knowledge is how do I put it? How do I put it without offending my colleagues? I for one will say I'm one of those my figure ksasa. In fact, my colleagues in the UK, and I was saying, wow, Jabulani.
And how are they feeling?
They're feeling okay. They're feeling okay.
All right.
So I think doctors are human, like everybody. And we are also scared of change, like everybody. I think because we all grew up in medicine that takes time, we all grew up knowing what a drug takes 10 years or a vaccine takes 10 years. And maybe some took that as that is what's supposed to happen and may not have kept up with the advances in technology, because as Sikem Kakeno or Dasong, those of us who are closer to the other aspect of medicine maybe keep up more than others. And we tend to know how the technology is advancing. That's the only reason I can say maybe it's not really trusting something that happened so fast because of how we've been conditioned, and with good reason. Human nature is
I hear you. It really is. I think it's mostly human nature. And
it is human nature.
Maybe if you feel like you are being led to a particular direction.
on a promising note, I don't know. It's bad that we're not getting it first on the line, but we have the benefit of seeing people from other countries getting it before us, and having that type of post marketing surveillance or post administration data developing. By the time Tola, although we expect to Tola in the next few weeks, enough body of evidence would have grown on top of what has been done in clinical trials. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It could be. I actually wanted to ask you that question, but I wasn't sure if it, you'll be the right person to have an indication when are we likely to see it coming to the country and the rollout. And I saw the minister the other day.
I applaud Ministry of Health in their openness. They've really taken us into their confidence and are very open with sharing information. They've communicated in most of their social media platforms their implementation plan, and they've also communicated the challenges. Unfortunately, we are not a country that has money to bet on something that's not known. The reason why other countries are getting it is because they had money to bet on something that didn't exist.
Yeah.
We're not yet there. So we had to wait for something to be announced which it works, and then commit money. And unfortunately, that meant we fell a little bit backwards on the queue. But they have informed us ever since then. We were part of this COVAX consortium, which is a World Health Organization driven, whose sole focus or goal is to ensure that there is equitable distribution of vaccines. But obviously, when things are like this, so WHO has had that foresight of saying even those countries that do not have the financial muscle, securely vaccines, and our country had that foresight of being part of that program. We're hoping to get vaccines through that program. From what is published from the Ministry of Health, they were expecting, I think President did announce that the first consignment should come at the end of, they're expecting it at the end of January. But I do not know when it will get to the clinic.
Yes.
I think that was the date of arrival at airport. Yeah. There's a lot of logistics.
There's a lot of logistics.
But their plans are advanced. There's very detailed planning on the phases. There is a phased approach of distributing our vaccines. They're communicating with who's in phase 1, who's in phase 2, who's in phase 3, according to differing risk profiles, as well as risk profiles. So people who are essential workers or frontline healthcare workers, as well as people who have existing comorbidities, people who are living in old age homes and the likes, have been prioritized by Uhulumeni according to the plans that have been made available.
Yeah, it makes sense. What's your take on herbal medicines, Mhlonyan?
I do not know enough to give an informed advice. That is my take. But having said that, I believe that where it's been used and has shown to work, backed by evidence, we're very evidence-based in the I have no reason not to believe what I say means.
Imboza. Same story.
Imboza is named for one genoma.
Imboza. I don't know what's Imboza. People who are watching us live, can you please help us with Imboza? Good seeing Imboza. There's Imboza.
Imboza no me Imboza. Are you confusing?
Okay, my bad.
Imboza is Imboza. I think Imboza has been used by Okoko Betu since time immemorial.
Yes.
I do not know how it works, so I do not know how it would work against a virus. From my knowledge, is that isiza or something like that.
No, all sorts of ailments, I think. Help.
But I cannot give advice on how it works against the virus because
Okay, so it probably would be the same thing for everything else. You would have a similar response.
No, there is a lot of evidence against umthunzwe inkukhu, and not particularly for
COVID.
the virus, but for other things. That's why it's been approved for certain medicinal uses. It's been shown to improve appetite, especially abaguliswa cancer. It's been shown, obviously, at the right doses, right formulation.
Yes, like everything else.
I would tell yeah. So there is evidence for umthunzi, but also on limited use. I don't think it's been tested as an antiviral agent.
All right. Okay, let me go back to our Facebook page and see. Okay, now it's too young. Caesar put iboza. Saying model CEO Peter Oh, hey, now I hope all 5G balalele. Do you want to get into that?
Okay.
Bijana.
Okay.
Yes. All is well with me.
on a logical level. If 5G ngokwami we understand that is telecommunication but ilento sivumela ukuthi sifone senze internet
Sikwazi ukuxhumana, yes.
Ihambe emoyeni. A-virus is an organism that lives azihlangani. I-virus i-virus ayikwazi ukuhamba ngomoya we-5G, ayikwazi ukuhamba ngetower. I-virus idinga a living cell.
Okay.
So that's the best logic engayichaza. Ayikho ngempela into angazi where it came from, how that connection was made. Maybe if mhlambe nami ngingambulela ukuthi how was this connection made? I can have a counter argument. Just on normal logical thinking, I do not see how the two come together. Ngoba ngangizokuthiwa ngathi yona efike ne-virus 5G, which will then prompt us to ask ourselves ukuthi ngokwami ukwazi akho 5G emkhanyakude, akho 5G emthwalume, akho 5G in many areas. I mean, that's sahlulwa nayi-fiber nje. So izofika kanjani i-virus ey'ndaweni la ingekho khona i-5G if bekuqiniswa ngempela ukuthi ihamba nge-5G.
Okay.
Kodwa ke mhlawumbe ochwepheshe-ke kwezokuxhumana, abafunde lo mkhakha bangajula. Mina ngiphelela lapho, angikwazi ukujula ukudlula lokho.
Now where is the connection? Because it's good to get, I mean, all sides, you know. At the end of the day, we are doing this so that we can liberate the minds of the people and people so they can make informed decisions, because we do need to understand these things. Ustu here is asking, does the cancer bush tea work? For COVID.
There is a cancer bush tea.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a cancer bush tea.
Okay.
So I can't even comment beyond how it works. I know of herbal teas.
Yeah.
As in anti-inflammatory properties. Amatia no ginger, amatia no mint, amatia no turmeric, which are herbal remedies that help ukuthi umzimba konje lithini igama lesizulu le-inflammation, but ukuresponda komzimba inflammation, acid inflammation, Google is our friend. Yeah. Those teas would work with an inflammatory type of condition. It will then make sense ukuthi any infectious condition that has an inflammatory response.
Okay.
Ama symptoms akhona angadamba.
Okay.
Kodwa logo akuchaza ukuthi kulashwe igciwane.
Yes.
It makes the symptoms less painful or less, you know.
Yeah.
Dambisa impawu, but not necessarily fighting the virus. Ngoba kubalekile ukuhlukanisa.
Okay, I think most of these things are ekhulunywa ngazo ezokudambisa or ezoku-manage a situation for what it's worth, whilst sisalinde ke yona vaccine. Let me just go back to and see if we've got any questions. Uthando lapha, the one who had asked about the issue
Ivermectin.
Yeah, ivermectin. Yes. Utige is the info from doctors that it is FDA approved. Not true. I'm not too sure which doctors.
If it was FDA approved in the last day or two.
Oh, okay.
If it is true.
If it is true, okay.
I will say if there is an FDA approval, angagaibon. I am not saying it doesn't exist.
Okay.
And as soon as I mangatala, that's the first port of call. What's the current status on ivermectin registration, and I will gladly share that with you on the site, and you can share subsequently.
Okay, all right, okay. What are the other myths or conspiracy theories that you are finding out there? Because I'm sure you've got a lot of people that are asking you questions on the side, you know, what else would you like to assist us in terms of maybe opening our minds to understanding better that probably I haven't asked or our viewers haven't asked yet?
I think the biggest fear, although it's not so much a myth, the biggest fear is the newness. And with the newness, there is a lot of unknown, and information is rapidly changing. I mean, South Africa has now a different variant. So there's a lot of unknowns that even scientists are saying it's an active area of research, SAPEG, and that's ASAGAS. It's only been a year and a couple of months since the COVID.
Yes.
So nobody can claim to have information on a long-term basis. So with that, I think on the issue of newness, people are saying the long-term side effects using prior knowledge. Obviously, we know that things in the past have gone wrong. We can't say medicine, Western medicines, as in a fault, as in a complications, as in a side effects. But in the past, things have gone wrong, and some drugs have had to be withdrawn as evidence, long-term evidence came to the fore. So there is that anxiety, which I think is a genuine anxiety, which we all have. But that's where again we have to do a risk-benefit analysis. I think the same argument was there, ARVs. ARVs are long-term side effects. And the argument then was rather use what works now. And as the evidence grows and the technology improves and the science grows and safer drugs and better drugs come along, you will still be there to get them. So the risk right now is, besides ukufaka ifonyo and ugeza izandla, asinayo enye into ezosiprotector, and we're seeing our people are dying every day. Umuntu usesaba nokuvula ifone abone ama-messages because the messages are just too depressing. So I think for me, the risk-benefit weighing is that if there is something that is showing efficacy right now, showing some sort of protection, it outweighs the risk of 10 years down the line, there may be a nervous disorder. I believe science will keep up with complications of that time, and they will be treated appropriately, which is what we're seeing now. Who knew what HIV would be like ushugela, and that's it, and there is no death sentence with it now. Right now we are in the grip of COVID. Comes with a death sentence to a lot of people. And it's too big a risk. It's too big a gamble.
It's too big a gamble. But I mean, look, I mean, I'm glad you're saying that it's human and it's fair, because I think you can recall when the HIV drugs came to the fore, you know, back then in the beginning, you know, and the side effects were just too much, too vicious.
But people who took them then are alive now to take the better versions. And
with you more.
And people who did not take them then, yeah, unfortunately.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
So for me, what I would like to impart is on the bigger benefit of vaccination. Vaccination, there are different goals. It's at an individual level, which is protect awareness. But the higher goal of vaccination is to protect the community. And that's where herd immunity comes in. So what worries a lot of healthcare workers is that with this vaccine hesitancy, it means we may not even normal EC-Coni vaccine, which works. I mean, a vaccine that works 95% and above is a good vaccine. That effective. So where was I? I was saying a vaccine that works that well is.
You're saying 95%?
Yeah, a vaccine that works 95%, it will not be any help if it's only taken by a few people.
Few people, yeah.
Herd immunity works well if a lot of us are protected, because viruses need to transmit from a person to a person. If a virus has a string of people, if it has a string of people and one of them is immune and is not a transmitter, that chain of transmission breaks. So if more people are immune and are not conduits of viral transmission, then the chain of transmission breaks and the epidemic ends. So it's to control at a public health level, and I think that's the bigger benefit. It's not just protecting one person, it's protecting more people, and the more of us take it, the more people are protected.
Okay.
The other goal of vaccination, although it may not be an immediate goal for this particular vaccine because we don't have enough information yet, is to eliminate and eradicate a pathogen from the face of the earth. We do not have smallpox now because the smallpox was eradicated through vaccination.
Yes.
We are now en route. South Africa received its certificate of being polio-free last year. And it's because of vaccination. So the bigger goal is that the virus is removed from the face of the earth and people do not have to even vaccinate in future if it's eliminated. But that is only achieved if more of us get vaccinated. Because as long as there is a pool of transmission, it will always be with us.
Okay, all right. Very interesting. Mark of the beast. Do you want to get into that?
Okay. Ngizofika lapho ngoba I'm not foreign to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay. I think the mark of the beast is something that instills fear in everybody. And if really somebody convinces people that there is a mark of a beast, it is meant precisely to create that type of fear. Where I look at it differently is my understanding of the beast is the beast is not bigger than God. Yes. So if we cannot possibly give it that much power that our God cannot overcome that. If for any reason we believe there is that, why can we not believe that our God can remove it? And that's my take on it, Tuguti. It can't be all powerful.
It can't be all powerful. I'm laughing because suddenly I'm remembering I wake up with songs just like you. So today I woke up with this song, Chris Sobley saying, "Our God is great," da, 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 basically saying that God is greater than everything. So I'm like, okay. So that's what.
So we can't possibly think, we can't empower something that is not good and let it rule us. It's so engulfed in fear. Now before this, people die because of lack of knowledge, we perish. Knowledge, and knowledge of even medicine comes from God.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And also, He's given us knowledge to pray and to bless and to fight evil and to fight demonic and spiritual powers.
Yes.
Why do we not believe we have that power? Why do we believe there's something more powerful? So that's where that's my take on it. I will not even go on the science of how it got into the vaccine because I don't think it's there.
All right, we'll save that for another session. Jeremiah 8, verse 21 to 22. Because my people are crushed, I am crushed. Darkness and despair overwhelm me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then have my people not been restored to health? So if vaccine is the balm in Gilead?
I think there are many manifestations of God because God is not constrained by time, place, and anything. If God could make balm in Gilead, God is making balm in South Africa and the world.
Let me just check if we have any other question before I let you go. I know busy. Usuyopeka. So you're now vegan, like really?
No, I am not. I am not.
Okay.
I go through phases. I go
through. Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I lean towards, I minimize inyama.
You minimizing yama. We see that, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. K is a very good cook as well. Like I was saying earlier, I bless God for the wisdom displayed today. I bless God for the wisdom displayed today. Okay, Dr. K, is there anything else that you would like, your parting shots? You know, into nje ufuna ukuthi ngifuna ukuyisho lento namhlanje khona khona bezokhululeka bahambe bayogoma.
I believe I need to reassure people,
Yes.
demystify a few things.
Yeah.
It's not new. The science exists. Umgomo we-hepatitis esiwunikeza iy'ngane is also a similar type of biotechnology produced vaccine.
Okay.
Umgomo esiwunikeza amantombazane amancane ey'koleni against cancer, human papillomavirus, is made the same way. So this methodology is not new. Okay. So the newness can be removed.
All right.
This was an unusual and unprecedented issue that required thinking out of the box. Okay. So it was attacked from all angles. Yes. And that is why it appears like why all of a sudden vaccine, it's because it required that type of response. And because there was existing knowledge, it worked. And that's why we're here now. We should actually be blessing God for bringing that knowledge to the people. But my parting shot is, let's protect each other. The same way we're protecting each other, ngama mask. I do not think we want to wear masks. If there is a way of returning to normality, says conjuntivity, and we hope this is convincing. It has been tested. It has gone through rigorous testing. It's safe, and let us use it and protect each other. I am not saying in the long term there may not be adverse findings, but let's be alive to fight tomorrow's battles tomorrow. Yes. There's a solution for today's battle. Let's use it. And tomorrow sizombulelwa ukuthi how we fight tomorrow's battle.
Likhona ivesi elifuna ukuxosha le ndaba oyixosha njengamanje. Let us fight today's battles today, and we will fight tomorrow's battles tomorrow. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khanyi, for spending time with us on Thriving in Abundance. We really appreciate it. I know this time is crazy for you. Kodwa siyajabula, siyabonga, siyaziqhenya ngawe konke nje okuhle okuqhakazile uyakhanyisa impela ukhanyisile namhlanje. I love how our names follow us. It's just amazing. If you are watching us live on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, if you'll be watching us later on our YouTube channel, thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. Igama lami nguZodwa Msimang KaNsibande signing off. Thank you to Busi Shabalala, who is our producer, and the whole team at Tikono Thrive Global. Until next time, siyabonga kakhulu. All the best, Dr. K.